Hello everyone and welcome to round 13 of Grand Prix Louisville 2013. Rich Hagan and Marshall Sutcliffe with you here in the booth, and you are going to look at Sam Black on the left of your screen against Christopher Obryant on the right, both from the United States, both at 11-1, and depending on tie breaks, who knows, maybe the winner here is destined for the top 8 with a couple of rounds to spare. As we see the first non-land play of the game, it's Frostburn Weird from Obryant, and triple blue now, because this is all about devotion, Marshall, Night Vale Spectre.
Yeah, and it's funny how we have to now count these symbols all the time. It's like, yeah, 2-drop, 3-drop, whatever, but it's actually just, 2 mana symbols versus 3 potentially here, as these devotion decks tend to build up to a point where they move over the top, right?
Is devotion the new poison? We want a little sort of devotion icon for these matchups where they, they get up to 6 or 7 or 8. And
probably don't need an icon, but I wouldn't do it. Night Vale Spectre, particularly powerful in the mirror, as
huge. Essentially
you can play all of the spells. In this case, since it's not a 75-card mirror, there might be some exceptions, but they're very few and far between. So we're going to be seeing a lot of land drops for Sam Black from his Night Vale Spectre potentially. Looks like he wants to play a 4-drop here, though, so that would mean a Jace or a Bident, depending on which one he happens to have in his hand. I believe it's a Jace this time. He could have played the land from the Night Vale Spectre, but that one comes into play tapped, so he wouldn't have been able to cast it. Oh, you also just see the aggressive play here, Master of
Waves. Yeah.
All right, I like it. Pretty tough to deal with if you're sitting in Christopher Obryant's seat here.
Yeah, now he has a couple of ultimate price in his main deck.
All right.
That I noticed that he's got there. But already Sam underway with 4 1-0 counters technically, and so for those of you who've not yet seen the mono blue deck, where have you been? Been on holiday for a couple of weeks maybe.
Yeah. Welcome home.
Yep, welcome back. You missed a lot, and it turns out the mono blue's a thing. To summarize briefly, so they're technically 1-0, but the Master of Waves gives them +1/+1, which is why when Master of Waves dies, you see all the tokens generally go away as well. And here we see Domestication. I'm going to take your Night Vale Spectre.
So we mentioned this card earlier, Rich, and it is a huge one in the mirror. Interestingly, taking away the Night Vale Spectre, leaving the Master of Waves there.
Sam has another 4 mana and will make another Master of Waves.
So this one's only going to create 2 creatures, but remember, they're both Master of Waves affect all of the...
But both pumping?
Yeah, so that means
that's 12 points of damage coming through then.
That's right, and Sam has sort of an insurance plan where if one of his Master of Waves goes away for some reason, he still gets to keep the rest of the counters here.
Yes, because it's the tokens don't belong to that particular Master of Waves. Right. They are just elemental tokens, and if more waves come crashing onto the shore, well, they keep on coming. So some pretty interesting stuff here in Game 1 with Night Vale Spectre coming in from Bryant, and we'll see a Tidebinder Mage.
Flips that.
Yeah, dismissively hurls it at Obryant.
Yeah, but this could be really interesting because if Christopher would have taken the Master of Waves, sure, he would have just had a 2-1, but you got to figure he has his own Master of Waves, and it would have killed those 4 elemental tokens for Sam Black, but now Sam's got that insurance plan with the second Master Waves and has just flooded the board with huge elemental creatures here and is able to apply massive pressure to Christopher.
And that's also where you see a card like Jace, Architect of Thought, which you can just see on the right of screen there for Christopher Obryant. The plus ability on Jace now much less exciting because, sure, you get to shave them all back down to 2 1s, but that's still a proper beating, and that's not going to be good for
Another thing to remember here is that those 2 Frostburn Weirds, normally excellent on defense, don't actually block Master of Waves. So since they're red and Master of Waves has protection from red, they can't block it. So another thing to note here is there's a Mutavault hiding down there in Sam Black's land in his mana bench.
Oh, master.
Unbelievable.
Well, I guess this can happen.
So the ones that are by the other master have Summoning Sickness and all these John Finkel tokens here do not.
And Sam's just doing his own version of what Obryant might be doing blocking-wise.
And Sam says, looks good.
Yeah, feels like the 3 Master Waves may put you in quite a lot of trouble.
Remember, Christopher's all the way down to 10 here.
I can tell you that the Esper control mirror on the other table is going to game 3. No, that's obviously a lie. They're probably still in turn 2 of game 1.
Right, all right. There's the Cyclonic Rift on one of the Master Waves. That will help temporarily. And
Scoop!
You take lethal, sir.
Yeah, I'll have that back, and I'll have that back as well. I imagine quite a lot of black-sleeved matches have ended up with a lot of cards going into the wrong decks this weekend. There's quite a lot of exchange of cards from opposing decks in various ways that seem to... You don't often see that. It's pretty rare that you get to control your opponent's something or other, and there's a lot of cards going away under things between your Detention Spheres and your Night Vale Spectres. There, for example, is Mr. Sam Black. He is currently number 13 ranked in your top 25. I expect that to go up rather thoroughly. Look at that. You see 2012, 2013.
This is actually after the PT.
That's right.
And
but I still expect him to go high. Just like in the next sort of month, 6 weeks,
forever.
You look at his pro points. Last season, he got as far as gold and 35 points. The season is currently 5 months old out of the 15 that we're going to have. He has 29 points already. And I think the really scary thing for a lot of other players is that Sam is someone who has spent a lot of time caring about deck lists, about deck efficiency, about ideas, about concepts, about putting the right deck in the right hands of the right players, and not caring about winning.
Yeah.
He would much rather, historically, be right than be a winner.
It's true.
If your choice is play the wrong deck but win, or play the right deck and lose, most of the time Sam chooses the right deck. That's his sort of philosophy. But coming out of the Pro Tour, where he finished 3rd, and of course got legions of people congratulating him on Twitter and Facebook and Reddit and all the places around the interwebs, and he kind of said, "All right, I'm going to stop you now. Thanks. That's all very well, but it turns out 3rd was 2 less than I had in mind, essentially. And yes, it gets me nearer my goals because obviously that means I've got a very good shot at Platinum, which is part of my goal. But you know what I really like? I'd really like to win a Pro Tour. And making the semi-finals again for a second time, because he lost to Josh Utter-Layton famously in Philadelphia 2011 in the first modern Pro Tour. He just said 3rd doesn't cut it anymore. And that feels to me a lot like Luis Scott Vargas in 2007, 2008, where he kind of said, you know what, I'm kind of fed up with just winning Grand Prix and just being a national champion. And, pottering around at the top tables of Pro Tours. I'd like to just choose the best deck, play it better than anyone else playing the best deck, and then beat everyone with the best deck. And then he wins Pro Tour Berlin in 2008. So I think Sam is... I would still say that probably Reed Duke is arguably the best player in World Magic right now.
Okay.
But Sam is so good, and that missing link to me was that I want to win. It sounds stupid because you would think every Magic player wants to win.
Yeah, and I've actually had a chat with Sam about this when I first met him, and he was very frank about that. He said that even though the vast majority of Magic players that make it to this stage, right, the high-level Grand Prix and Pro Tour stage, we're talking about the spikiest of spikes, possible. Remember, Magic is a game that is very broad. The part that we enjoy, the tournament aspect of it, is just one dimension. But that dimension attracts a certain type of person, and that person wants to win, prioritizes winning, and really gains satisfaction from Magic through winning. And Sam actually doesn't fit that mold naturally. He considers himself somebody who likes to figure things out. He is a philosophical type of person in that way, where he doesn't just pin everything on a win or a loss. He loves games. He loves games in general. He feels strongly that Magic's the best game, and he wants to show people that he knows games better than they do. That doesn't necessarily mean that winning is a priority, though, and that's a pretty unique thing for Sam, but it looks like he's... I mean, geez, if he gets that bug where all of a sudden winning is also the priority, it kind of gets scary for everybody because he does plenty of winning anyway.
Yeah, I think the thing is, when he's equipped, as he clearly is, to answer almost any theoretical question within a particular format, what changes, it's not about a will to win, because that's all very nebulous. It's a more practical thing of, if he, instead of asking himself, what is the best deck in some kind of abstract way, and comes to a conclusion and plays a deck, but instead asks himself the question, given what I know what the best deck is, what is my best chance of winning this Pro Tour? And that is not necessarily a question he has asked himself to compute at every PT.
I mean, that can be said. I mean, also, though, if you're going to talk about what's the best deck, I mean, that's the one that gives you the best chance to win the Pro Tour, right? It's
no, not necessarily.
I mean, what other metric are we...
Not necessarily. If the best deck is clearly mono-red, then the answer is all the creatures with protection from red. Witness Tokyo Solutions v Moshevitz 2001, playing with horrific cards that were clearly in no sense the best deck, but they were the deck that gave them the best chance of winning the Pro Tour. He won the Pro Tour.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that the best deck is the one that gives you the best chance to win.
Okay.
I might be wrong.
All right,
that's what I'm saying.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Well,
right,
we're into game 2. Christopher Obryant kicks off with Frostburn. Weird. And that will attack, and just for the one, because he has plans, and his plans involve going blue, 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 Night Veil Spectre, and Sam also has a plan. It's Gainsay, counter-target blue spell.
That's huge here. Now Sam gets to resolve his own Night Veil Spectre, and as we mentioned, if that thing connects, it's draw a card in this matchup.
Yeah. The Frostburn will attack. Sam will not block, goes straight to the pen. And again, it's just one because Bryant has more plans. This time, it's the first appearance in this matchup of Thassa, God of the Sea. He'll get to scry in his upkeep every turn. And there is a Thassa going underneath Night Veil Spectre when Sam Black's Night Veil connects.
See that Sam has his own domestication in hand as well. So he's going to have some decision-making to do here. He can cast the Thassa if he wants and try to set that up for the next turn because he'll already be at 4 devotion.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing here.
That's exactly where he's going, and a reminder there's no problem that the fact that they're both legendary, as long as they're on opposite sides of the table, not a problem. It's only when you control two of them. It doesn't even matter that they both belong, owned by Christopher Obryant.
This is super interesting. We see domestication there.
Takes out the Night Veil Spectre.
And that's going to add a ton of devotion.
Yeah, he's way over the mark, and he piles in with Thassa and the team.
So Sam's got his own domestication. He can use that to take back Night Veil Spectre. Interestingly, though, the other domestication will stay on and still contribute to Christopher's devotion. So it gets a little tricky here.
So, there we are. I'll have that back, then I'll hit you.
Man, we have a proper race here, don't we, Rich?
Yeah.
Hit you for 5 in mono blue.
Red hot God on God action. Hi me, how am I? Pretty well. Punching the daylights out of the opponent.
So upkeep scry here. Looks like a tough decision.
So 4 cards for Christopher Obryant on the right of your screen. He leads 13-12 in life, but 1 down in this match, as we're racing towards a conclusion of Game 2. Creatures bypassing each other on both sides. Here's Omen Speaker. The 1/3 for 2 gets to scry 2. Look at the top 2. Push them, keep them, any combination. Sam with not an awful lot going on in hand. He's got Jace.
2 Jaces, 2 lands.
Yeah, and now third island joins the double Planeswalker grip. And with Sam down to 6, the race may have stopped and Road to Survival may have been engaged by Mr. Black.
Yeah, this is going to be a tall order here for Sam. Remember, Thassa, God of the Sea, has an activated ability. She can make a creature unblockable. And she can do that on herself as well and represent most of Sam Black's remaining life total here. If he just activates it on Thassa and, one of his other creatures, that would do it.
Night Veil Spectre will go in. Sam will take a look. It is a temple.
Sam doesn't look like he wants to play Temple of Deceit right away here. Yeah, needs all the mana he can get.
There's Jace. And he's going to +1 to spare himself what would actually be quite a lot of damage. There is a Cyclonic Rift in hand for Chris Obryant. And he's doing the customary upkeep scry effect via Thassa. And having left it there, it was a second Cyclonic Rift.
Indeed. So he's got a lot of tools at his disposal here. Let's see, he's got 5, he's got 4, 5, he's got 5 damage available right now. And if you count the Mutavault, that's 6, but he can't fire off both Cyclonic Rifts and still attack with Mutavault, so it looks like Sam is going to get an untapped step here. And a draw. Alright, so Cyclonic Rift is going to hit Domestication from Sam Black. That's going to bring Night Veil Spectre back, but
Can't attack.
Yeah.
But here's the rest of the team. Sam is going to activate his Mutavault. And Obryant, who has the mana for another Cyclonic Rift should he desire, now has to decide whether to pull the trigger on that.
Yeah, remember Thassa, God of the Sea is not currently active for Sam.
He says sure, so he's going to let Sam block. And currently, because of Jace's +1 ability, you see him at the top of your screen on the left at 5. That is a 2/2 blocking a 1/2.
I don't think Thassa's active here. I only see 3 mana symbols for Sam Black, right?
Yeah, because the domestication went away.
That's right, and the Night Veil Spectre that it was on. So
yep.
Yeah, it looks like Sam overlooked that briefly and is now reconsidering his block here.
So now he chumps Thassa.
This has him only taking,
and then
see, 1, 2, 3 damage here.
Yeah, but I mean, he's super far ahead.
He is.
Sam will push whatever was on top, and instead draw looks like a gainsay, yeah.
That's not going to do much here.
No. All the fun is on the board right now.
Sam does have a Jace activation in his pocket here if there's something that he can draw to get him out of this mess.
And he also has Domestication, of course, which came back to hand, so he gets the chance to steal something back. So anyway, he can turn Thassa off. Okay, he's going to go with a straightforward plan of, let me show you these 3 cards. It's Mutavault, Cyclonic Rift, and Master of Waves. Oof, indeed.
Again, though, I don't think Sam's actually at 6 right now. We'll double check that. I think he fell down to 3, I believe, on the last attack. So We have to keep that in mind as Thassa, God of the Sea. Remember that unblockable ability. As long as she's still active on Christopher's side, he can activate it and just send in, and that'll do it. Yeah, Sam Black at 3 here.
I guess you split with Master of Waves alone, thinking that if you're Chris Obryant, that you've got that Cyclonic Rift ready to just send the Master of Waves away again. We know, of course, that Sam has the gainsay that he drew this turn.
Yeah, but Sam doesn't have enough here. Like, I mean, the problem is that Master of Waves just doesn't do anything here. It
would get him 4, wouldn't it?
What's that?
He'd get 4 tokens?
Yeah, but it just doesn't matter because Thassa, God of the Sea, becomes unblockable and just kills him. Hits him for 4. Or hits him, in this case, for 5 because Jace went minus. So,
yep, so he's going to...
and Sam's forced to take the...
domestication.
Yeah, but Sam has... If Sam hits a land drop, he can have domestication and fire off a Cyclonic Rift on Thassa so that he doesn't die here. But it's getting pretty sketchy for Sam Black.
For sure. Times like this, you're glad you're 1-0 up.
Indeed. I don't think that there is a time I'm not glad that I'm up 1-0.
Yeah. So there's land number 6 from Sam. Has the cards, but not necessarily the time.
Now he can steal Thassa, God of the Sea as well. It'll come over to Sam's side. He'll control 2 of them. He will control domestication as well. So that will make sure that they're both live.
But one of the Thassa will have to go away.
That's right. And I think that's an easy decision.
How about your one? Yeah.
Sam's doing some pretty deep thought here, though. So right now, the good news for Sam is that Christopher's tapped out. So Sam does get to just sort of craft a plan with the cards he has in his hand here and execute that plan this turn. But it feels like getting that Thassa off the board is a step in the right direction here.
And if that at least partially stabilizes him, the fact that he has enough mana for Gainsay means that as long as Brian only does one thing next turn, that can probably be dealt with. Admittedly, if it happened to be one of the 2 ultimate prices, that would be a little irritating. But
right. So Sam deep in the tank here. Looks like he's going to take the Nightveil Spectre, interestingly.
And then pass with Gainsay mana available. Bryant scries via Thassa. And then draws. And Cyclonic Rift the Nightveil Spectre. And I'm pretty sure Bryant is about to win any counterspell war here because I believe he drew into Gainsay. And in fact, Sam just sweeps up his permanents and says, yep, you got me. And we will go to game 3.
Yeah, so the downside to Sam taking the Thassa is that if he sacrifices Christopher's Thassa, he loses devotion for his own.
Okay.
Yeah, this gets a little complicated.
Yeah,
but,
do it gently for me. I'm only little.
Yeah, and then he won't. His Thassa then is left as not a creature, and he needs blockers. I mean, he's still facing down a Mutavault, a 1/3, and a 2/2, along with the 2/3 flying Nightveil Spectre. So just too many threats there for Sam to have to deal with. He had some options as far as taking out key threats, but Thassa was lethal by herself, and then the other creatures were if Thassa didn't stay alive.
I know that you are not would not style yourself as a constructed deck builder, but I'd like to get some general thoughts about the card Mutavault, because there are sort of 3 schools of thought going on here from the last 10 days or so.
Okay.
Number 1, you've seen Mutavaults be incredibly powerful in matchups like this, where the board gets cleared, you get a Supreme Verdict maybe in the Esper control match, but there's a Mutavault still standing to come on in, and you can never really get to them a lot of the time. So there we are, super powerful, marvelous. Then you see decks like Brad Nelson talking yesterday to Nate Price about in his mono black, I have one Mutavault. I cannot justify more because of my Night Vale Spectres.
Okay.
And so it's really awesome, but I daren't do it a lot. I think it might have been Nykthos, actually, that he had one of.
Okay.
That makes more sense, I guess. But the idea of putting pressure on the mana base.
Yes.
And then we have seen players absolutely fail to cast the spells they want to cast because they've got these colorless lands in the deck.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to work out, because usually you can say, is this card good for me? Yes, it is. So I'm playing 3 or maybe 4.
Mm-hmm.
But here it's like, hey, Mutavault's super good. Can I squeeze a second one in? Am I going to play 1, 2? Here, they're both playing all 4.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also both playing Night Vale Spectres.
That's right. And it's interesting because, you see a risk-reward happen when the people are building the decks, right? It's like, well, it's a known entity that Mutavault is an excellent card, right? That much is known to people. So it's desirable to have that in your deck if you can fit it in. The question becomes, what am I giving up by playing it? And that question varies a lot by deck. In a deck like this mono blue deck, I mean, getting to play Mutavault is one of the reasons why the deck is desirable. There's also the Thassa Master of Waves interaction. But I mean, you've got to play some kind of stinkers in this deck to make it work. I mean, you're playing Cloudfin Raptors, which I love that card, but that's because I cast it limited. Yeah, and I did not think it would see too much constructed play, although I could see some aggressive Bant whatever, but I didn't think it was going to appear in a deck like this.
Sure.
And
the 12 flying men, as it were.
Right. You're playing Judge's Familiar, which is fine. It's a fine Magic card. There's nothing wrong with Judge's Familiar, but it's also, it's not an overtly powerful spell. It's not like
Indeed.
It's not a reason to play a deck, right? And so, you do have to give some stuff up, but you get Mutavault, and Mutavault is absolutely fantastic in essentially every matchup.
All right. Well, Obryant is going to mulligan his initial 7 and head down to 6. The winner here will still be only one loss on the weekend. 12-1 will be the winner. And it seems very likely with 2 rounds to go that somewhere in there, a loss, an ID, should be comfortable potentially for top 8. So Sam Black could be well on his way to another, or Christopher Obryant could dominate this last game here in the Mono Blue Mirror. Off camera, I can tell you that they're still very deep in what I imagine to be Game 2 of the Esper Control Mirror. There's a lot of land in play, but not so many that they're kind of at 18 land apiece, so it's probably not Game 1 over there. So still some action to bring you. Hopefully they'll still be going at the end of our Game 3 here, and we can show you some Esper Control and Control action. So, Sam finishing off the little shuffle. And Obryant will look to try and work with these 6. Cyclonic Rift, Master of Waves, Mutavault, Tidebinder Mage, Frostburn Weird, Island. And here we are, Marshall, with one Island and a Mutavault off all kinds of double blue and...
He just drew another double blue spell as well, Rich. So we'll see.
Sam will pass on turn 2 without a way to evolve his Cloudfin Raptor. There's the Mutavault from Obryant. Sam has a Mutavault of his own, but does already have 2 blue, which is functionally where the deck sits as he runs out of Tidebinder Mage, puts a counter on Cloudfin Raptor, and attacks for the first point of damage here in Game 3, then adds his Mutavault. And, yeah, I mean, it's only anecdotal.
Yeah.
Don't forget this at home. Don't start tearing up your Mutavaults at home.
Did you, set this up? Did you run away and you just wanted to make that little piece that we talked about
honestly,
that much more relevant?
No, it's just, honestly, I find it one of the most interesting little corners of Standard right now. What is the correct number of Mutavault in all the decks that want to run it? Because, ironically, you're in mono land, and look at that, that's just like, no, I'm dead.
Wow.
Thanks.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, Rich,
just
it was really interesting. We were just talking about the risk reward, but this deck, generally speaking, pretty good about Mutavaults, but when you draw 2 of them and only 1 island and your opponent plays spell,
Yep.
you're done.
Yep. And I mean, it's hard to ship back a card, a 6-card hand with 2 land. You've got an island, you've got a Mutavault. You know, an island in the first 2 or 3 turns should see you in decent shape. This is your upcoming webcast schedule. Now, let's see. Between us, I guess we might be at all of those. Let's see. Grand Prix Antwerp for Modern. I'm super excited about that. Got Moraine Libert fresh from his Modern seminar on the Friday at the GP.
Oh, cool.
So he's doing that live for people. And then
I can't wait for that. I love
be
watching Modern.
Yeah, and he'll be on air. I know that's your favorite constructed format.
It is.
So that's Modern. And then we pile on. We get a weekend off for good behavior. And then November 9-10 is Valencia in Spain as a sort of PT dress rehearsal, one might say.
Right.
Basically, we're just going to see whether the floods have dried out from 2007. That's really why we're going. Fact-finding mission. So that's there. And then up after that, you get Grand Prix Washington. Albuquerque, you in Washington for the Legacy?
Washington, D.C. I am there indeed.
And then Albuquerque, that's New Mexico, correct? You are going to that one?
I am indeed.
All right. I, of course, will be in Vienna on the European scene. And then, what about Dallas?
Undetermined.
I think we might both end up at that one.
Okay.
Oh, hello. You know, I said about
Permanence.
18 land? 8,
Yes.
10, 12, 14. In fact, there's 17 land on the right of your screen. This is game... Is this game 3, Rashad? It's showing as game 3. It feels like it might be a game 2. But we'll see. Aetherling is in play for William Jensen on the left of your screen. It's game 1. Yeah, I lied. Of course it
it's
doesn't.
game 1.
Of course it's game 1.
Why wouldn't it be game 1?
So we'll be with you for the next 3 hours here in the Esper Control Mirror. You know, we said, should we have a little icon for devotion? Well, maybe we need one now for cards left in library.
That's true. Now, I got to say here, though, that it looks like we've come at near the end of game 1 as Huey has both Elspeth and Aetherling, 2 of the most powerful things that you can do in the format here. And
Doomblade your Aetherling to send it out for a turn. Elspeth, Sun's champion, will rise up and make soldiers number 4, 5, and 6. All that Jack Fogle has on the other side is Jace, Architect of Thought, and that looked like 3 cards.
That looked like a 3-card
3
library.
cards left in the library. No Sphinx's Revelation here then.
Wow, and Jack Fogle still sitting on 19. He might be able to just outweight this thing. Now, one of the big
he's
issues...
got Hero's Downfall in hand.
Does he have one in hand?
Okay. Fogle's got Hero's Downfall in hand.
Because that's the main key here, is that he doesn't let Elspeth go ultimate. Also, though, Fogle can have cards like Supreme Verdict to basically make that irrelevant as well.
17 to 19. As we see Aetherling being forced to vanish.
He used the Hero's Downfall on that. So Elspeth is ticked all the way up to 7 here.
Yep, 9 soldiers. Back comes Aetherling. A land went into hand for Fogle.
So this is actually a critical turn because we're going to need to see a Supreme Verdict here from Fogle.
Well, I can tell you that is what you are about to see.
There it is.
And a very pretty Supreme Verdict it is too. Aetherling, of course, goes out.
Wow.
Back we go. Draw. It's a Plains.
This is kind of an insane ending.
It's crazy. I mean, it's obviously taken a bit of a while. He's like, how many cards have you got left?
He's got 3 or 4, yeah. Huey's going to take a minute to look at essentially Fogle's entire deck here.
Yep. Jace, Architect of Thought is up to 8. Yeah, the 4 key numbers here, 8 on Jace, 7 on Elspeth, 6, that's the mana on Aetherling, and 1, that's the cards left in the library for William Jensen.
I think he just ultimated Elspeth. Are we going to see him Azorius Charm here? What is... Because one thing you can do is Azorius Charm your own...
Onto the top of the library?
Yeah, to you know, try to not get decked.
Never a dull moment in the control mirror, boys and girls.
I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, I imagine the chat room is about to disagree.
Yeah.
And there we go.
So Jack.
Oh, so we actually get a...
Did we get a proper
a table
ending there?
under there.
Was Jack actually not at 19 there? Because I think he might have been at a lower life total.
Okay.
So Jack was not at 19 then. We're getting a confirmation.
Yeah.
We're being told that Huey won that. So if that's the case, then that Aetherling finished off Jack, because obviously it didn't do 19.
No.
So he wasn't at 19. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. He said, so what Rashad said is that he got hit for 12 damage there.
Okay, sure.
And then, because remember, thanks to the emblem,
Yep.
that not only makes the Aetherling bigger in general, but it also allows
more headroom for... Yeah.
So he took 12, and then he scooped. So he must have known already, based on the cards in hand, graveyard. Yeah, and he says, well, I can't hold on any longer, so you're just going to kill me next turn, and that'll do it. So William Jensen actually takes down the first game there.
Interesting also that this is an asymmetrical match in that the players are not on the same record. Jack Fogle is 11-1.
Okay.
And he is paired down to William Jensen at 10-2.
Oh, really?
Now, what that means is that if, for example, Jack was to force a draw here by winning game 2, and as you can see, he's going to have to be pretty sharpish about it, because in the control mirror, 13 minutes is not a ton of time. But if he were able to force a draw at 11-1-1, he would feel a win in either of his next 2 matches would be sufficient. Now for Jensen, a draw would put him at 10-2-1, and then he would need 2 straight wins
to have, and decent breakers
and
potentially
breaker help as well. And so for Jack, to get a draw would actually be kind of perfectly acceptable, whereas William really needs to win this one to then be in that same win one and then ID potentially.
Now I will say that while sideboarding is taking a little bit of time here, both players did seem to be keenly aware of that, as the plays were pretty darn brisk down the end there. And I think that they'll be able to finish a game here, potentially. I mean, if it goes into that extreme long game like we just saw, where each player has a card or 2 left in their library, perhaps not. But they are going to both players are going to be very aware, especially Huey, of the clock. Is
there a way for either deck to be air quotes aggressive?
No.
There's just nothing, is there really?
No, there's just not. This is the most controlling deck in the format. This is a deck that's trying to push as hard in the other direction as possible.
Although that said, Jack Fogle could do worse than simply bringing in 4 Soldier of the Pantheon and just saying,
okay,
and he's got 4 Thoughtseize as well. So there's a plan where you go Soldier, Thoughtseize away, Supreme Verdict.
Something, yeah.
You get rid of a Supreme Verdict.
Yeah.
Detention Sphere can't take out multiple soldiers.
Now,
because of the protection from multicolored.
That's right. Now, it's interesting because I mean, in a normal game,
I have no idea what he's going to do.
Of course,
there you are. There is one.
Is
in his opening hand? Yeah, isn't that Soldier? Boom.
It is indeed.
There you
go.
Right,
so
here is the aggro plan.
Wow, this
Do you
is
see what happens when you put me in the expert chair? It's suddenly like I get knowledge and stuff. It's really weird.
All right, let's see if he can do it.
I am sure.
Because this is zigging and zagging in the other direction, because it's very common for the other control players to take out their spot removal in decks like this, where your opponent has like 1 or 2 total targets.
Yeah. And I mean, you look at that hand of 7, there's 3 land, there's 2 Gainsay.
Right.
There's an Azorius Charm which can't target a soldier. And there's a 4,000 turns time Aetherling.
That's right.
And of course, Azorius Charm is what's going to go away. Interesting. And Jensen doing the very, very old school pro thing of, well, we both know what these 6 were, and I'll just keep this one face down.
Yep, this is something that's common to play testing as well.
Yeah.
It's just used as a shortcut to make sure that people, know the information and don't have to fuss around with, what did you have again? And, you just keep it simple. So Soldier gets in there.
Yeah, Jensen at 16. Here's another Thoughtseize. Oh.
Ooh.
That's a shock. And now what are the choices? Pay 2 for Hallowed Fountain, so is there something else going on? Well, there's a counter spell.
He's representing a negate or a gainsay here.
And we know he does have negate, in fact, in hand. It certainly looks like it. Maybe that's syncopate. In comes the soldier, but although we laughingly said you bring the 4 in and you get 2 of them down, 1 is not the same as 2 by any stretch. He's sort of halfway there. He passes.
I mean, the Thoughtseize soldier plan that you outlined, Rich, is working here.
And I mean, with a little bit of counter magic.
Yeah, so we're going to have a gainsay fight here.
Ashok says no with the negate, gainsay that, and we'll show you another soldier and a Blood Baron.
That Blood Baron would have been sweet.
Yeah.
For Jack off the top of his deck here, but
would have been huge.
Instead, it's exiled. And there's another soldier, like you mentioned, Rich.
Uh-huh.
He's got another one in his hand, though.
So here's Jace. Revealing Planar Cleansing and 2 land. So, okay.
Planar Cleansing pushes a mana a little bit in this deck, but wow, what a powerful effect. It can deal with so many pesky things that can't normally.
Has Jack tapped his land so that he can't now play the other soldier?
What's his remaining land?
He's just got a Watery Grave. Maybe that was intentional and he had no intention of playing the other one, but...
No, he's going to have to play an untapped...
You have to play the plains.
He's going to have to play a plains or
a...
yeah,
there we go. That's fine. Yeah, I thought... I hadn't realized he hadn't played the land.
Sure.
So, Detention Sphere drawn. That would be great against...
Yeah. You're just on fire today, Rich.
Well, I know a lot of people would like to set me on fire, but there's Blood Baron, which they have protection from, don't forget. So, functionally, that Blood Baron is not there. He's got one more Jace activation if he wants.
Yeah, I mean, it is and it isn't there, right?
Sure.
You know,
I mean, it's there very meaningfully on Huey's turn.
That's right, and it's going to blank the attack steps from both of those soldiers. So, you know, we're going to need to see a far and away or some type of an edict here to get rid of that thing.
So, would you be patient here as Jack, as we see Hero's Downfall take out Ashiok, or do you just get rid of the Jace here? Yeah, he's going to just pull the trigger and say, what is my top 3?
Remember, he needs to win
Revelation and 2 land, and of course the 2 land go away.
He needs to win this and the following game, and he's only got 7 minutes.
Sure, I mean, I imagine he's caring about this game and not worrying about the idea of game 3.
Right.
Jensen draws into a Jace of his own. In comes Blood Baron.
Yeah, interesting to keep back those 2 soldiers there. I don't know why he wouldn't just battle.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's Jace. Goes to 5. So blunt the attack somewhat further.
So Huey's looking to be in a pretty darn good position here.
That said, Jack has got to his Revelation, which we saw off the last Jace activation. And now has another Jace of his own. And one imagines he's going to get back into dig mode here. Yep, that's what he does. So 1, 2, 3, land, and another Jace. That is not the most exciting 3 cards you could see.
No, it is not. I mean, cards isn't really the issue here for Jack at the moment. It's dealing with that Blood Baron that he needs to get rid of. And sure, additional cards can help dig him to those things, but time is closing in on him quickly as he's already at 8. He's going to be taking 4 next turn. Finally, he attacks with his soldiers here, although the trigger from Jace shrinks him down a bit.
Not necessarily discussing this in a strategic sense, but I love the fact that players get to play with their Planeswalkers now more than they did. I love that you don't just go, I'll make a Jace. I'll make a Jace, they've gone, it's like they never happened. I like that their Planeswalkers are designed to impact the battlefield and not just be quasi-removal spells. So I think the change is really good. As we see Blood Baron kind of dominating things now, Jensen, the plan was an interesting one for the soldiers of the Pantheon.
I mean, he
It
was
was
very
a thing.
close to getting there.
Yeah, he needed a second one earlier. He got Jensen down to 12, 10 with the first one. It needed to be the 1-2 punch, really. And Blood Baron, as Blood Baron tends to do, has become pretty dominant.
All right, so that's going to put Jack down to 1 because of the Jace activation.
Yeah. So here's the response. We know that there's a gainsay available to fight from Jensen.
Also
at
a
least.
dissolve that we saw from the Jace activation.
Yeah. And so now Jack Fogle down to 1. And he gets to look again. Here's a Blood Baron too late.
Well,
a Sphinx's Revelation. Now, you see, those were 3 good cards.
Those are 3 excellent cards, and none of them do anything here. Well, actually, is that true? The dissolve is going to matter here. So the Elspeth can use its minus ability to take out the Blood Baron, but unfortunately, it's not going to resolve because we know that Huey has a dissolve in his hand, and that's going to take care of that situation and should set up the victory for Huey here.
Yeah, not resolve, but dissolve.
Correct. Now, if
so, let's try. No, done.
And that's it.
2-0. I tell you what, I thought that second game was fantastic.
It was kind of cool.
That was really fun.
Yeah.